There was a post, I think just a couple days ago, by an anonymous X account who ousted one of those protesters as being a Syrian refugee that came into our country in 2015 and now is taking to the streets to promote this disorder and chaos. And just yesterday, we have Premier Smith announcing that she's concerned by Canada's illegal migrant problem that is only going to get worse, might I add, under the Trump administration in January when he's inaugurated, because he's promised to deport all of the illegal immigrants, illegal aliens that are in the United States, which often have criminal records and a pattern of criminality from their country of origin. And so where are they naturally going to go? Mexico or Canada? And, land of the free, the great white north, I think we're in for it in the next month or two.
Tamara, I beg to differ with you on one point there, because if you are going to deport someone, assuming I think you're talking about the ones that get away, where they're going to flee to. But in the deportation procedure, it'll be to their country of origin. And I suspect by the time a lot of these people try to flee, talk about an unbelievable communication strategy going back to Monday when Donald Trump announced on his Truth Social that if Mexico and Canada don't get their borders in order, you're looking at a 25% tariff.
Yeah.
What did we see? Within 12 hours, the president of Mexico said, the caravans, they aren't going to make it to the border anymore. Imagine that. And here, what did we have at the speed of light as opposed to the speed of bureaucracy? Blackface and Fraulein Freeland meeting with all the premiers to get our strategy in order. Have you ever seen government move so fast? So I think if we do, and Daniel Smith, Doug Ford, they've already talked about hiring extra agents. So maybe, just maybe, I know it's a hell of a long border, but when those illegal aliens flee from the U.S. under threat of deportation, maybe they're going to hit a brick wall when they try to get into our country. So I think this was an outstanding victory for Donald Trump. And people say, Manzoid, are you crazy? Do you know what that's going to do to our economy? Do you know that we can't survive if we get into a tariff war with the U.S.? 100%. I think, though, those 25% tariffs, at least for Canada, will not come to fruition as long as Donald Trump sees that we're doing something.
And none other than female Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith, has already pledged to do something about it. Here she has an exclusive interview with our boss, Ezra Levant, on the topic. Let's show this quick clip.
Let me start by saying I believe Donald Trump when he says what he says about what his concerns are, what the trade irritants are. He's really concerned about China using Canada or Mexico as a conduit to bring cheap goods into the United States. He's concerned about the fact that we haven't met our 2% NATO commitment to support national defense. And more recently, he's concerned about the cross-border problem of not only illegal migrants, but also fentanyl. And these are shared concerns. We have those concerns as well. I've been raising them. Other premiers have been raising them. And so it seems to me that the smartest move would be to say, yes, we agree we've got to address this issue and to start putting some meaningful resources on the border to make that happen. And what we have said is we're happy to work with our provincial counterparts and our federal counterparts to make that happen. We've got sheriffs that we can deploy. We've been using drone technology to fight fires up in northern Alberta mostly. We can use drone technology as well to be able to monitor that border. And we're prepared to deploy the resources that we need to give the Americans and to give our own people some comfort that we are addressing this issue in a serious way.
And, seriously, Tamara, how about this for a make work project? A wall. I'm all about walls and fences, and we know the left loves it when it comes to their own personal residences. Look at Nancy Pelosi's gated residence. Last time I was at the White House on Election Day, you couldn't even see the White House anymore. There's two walls in front of it. So while the Biden-Harris administration, they weren't keen on border security when it comes to their security, oh boy, walls work, as do fences. fences and armed guards. So, yeah, I am hopeful that we're going to get serious about this. And one indicator, Tamara, the difference between 2024 and 2016 is right now you have Justin Trudeau arranging a meeting with all the premiers, whereas 8 years ago, what did he do? Sent out that infamous tweet, hashtag welcome to Canada. Yeah, come, all you illegal aliens, come on in. I didn't see any of that chatter from the Prime Minister this time around.
Open arms. And well, now the pushback is so great and the collapse of all of our social systems is so great. It cannot be ignored. And sadly, the fact that those open, porous borders have been in place for almost 9 years, you're seeing the fallout and destruction of those ridiculous radical policies. And one thing here that Smith touches on is the fentanyl that's coming across our borders from China. There's this exclusive investigation by the Bureau, which found the fentanyl case against China, Canada, and Mexico. And they say that Canada is being increasingly exploited by China for fentanyl production and export, with over 350 gang networks operating, according to Canadian Security Intelligence reports. And that is staggering, astonishing numbers, especially as you coincide that investigation and those numbers with what's happening on our streets in various towns and cities all across the country, whether it be Vancouver, Toronto, or even small towns like the one that I'm originally from in Cobourg, Ontario, where you see people in this zombie-like state just completely zoned out. The crime, the violence, the chaos, the disorder, as I've already mentioned, that's unfolding, the safety concerns, especially for children and the elderly when this is ensuing in their neighborhoods, and the drugs, the trafficking. I mean, really, it's a mess, especially for the people who live in the direct vicinity of these drug houses or these gang activities or these supposed safe supply and harm reduction sites. It is actual chaos, and people are no longer feeling safe in their own homes. I remember Canada when I was a kid, and even up until a few years ago, you didn't have to lock your doors. There just wasn't the crime or the violence that we're seeing on the streets now. And it's really sad because it's due to these radical policies, and it can be avoided. And I'm hoping that it can be reined back in before it's too late.
You know, Tamara, you make an excellent point about your hometown of Cobourg. The population is what, under 10,000?
No, it's about 25,000 now, but it's grown a lot in the last few years.
But a small town, nevertheless. And you never saw this in small town. You never even saw it in Toronto. I mean, I think about the famous Peter Ustinov quote in 1987, Toronto is New York as run by the Swiss. Those days are long gone. I was down on Queen Street last night, Queen West, and I came across it looked like either a place of worship or a place of worship repurposed as a theater for live arts. And there was an entire homeless encampment around it, just right there off of the sidewalk. And, you know, to see that in Cobourg, I mean, I used to always love coming to Cobourg, typically in the summertime for the annual sandcastle competition. And you get unbelievable artwork there. How perversely ironic, it's not sandcastles on the beach, but actually tents on the beach with, you know, people in it. And some of these poor folks, let's face it, there's the criminal element, but there are those who are addicted. Yeah. There are those with mental issues. I'm not trying to be pejorative, but it is like zombie land, isn't it? It is people walking around without a purpose. And that's another thing Danielle Smith has right in her province. No more safe injection sites. They get you into a clean and sober facility. I'd like to see that take root with Premier Ford here. Yeah, it's not just tents on the beach. It's actually needles and drug paraphernalia. And it gets, you know, ground down under the sand, and then your kids are playing in the beach, they're digging up, they're building sandcastles, and for children to stumble upon this paraphernalia, which some of it comes with great risk if you're dealing with a used needle, it's really devastating for law-abiding, tax-paying citizens.
who live amongst this chaos.
And Tamara, one last thing too on the border. You're quite right about fentanyl and how that is literally destroying lives and killing people and wrecking families. But of course, the northern border is nothing like the sieve that exists between the U.S. and Mexico in the south. But let it be known that when it comes to illegal aliens, we account for almost 10% of the number. And that's a big number. Mm-hmm. So Donald Trump is absolutely right to do a little saber rattling that if you aren't going to beef up border security, you're going to pay a price.
Yeah, we'll see what Trudeau's reaction. Well, maybe we'll talk about his lackluster, weak, unsurprising reaction in a minute.
Our on-the-ground reporting, independent news shows, and special content you won't find anywhere else. It's all designed to give you trustworthy information and alternative viewpoints so you can decide for yourself. We don't get government money, and we are not owned by some big global conglomerate. We're funded by people just like you, so please support independent journalism and help us continue our work by subscribing and becoming a Rebel News Plus member today, right here on the page. Go to rebelnewsplus.com. Members get instant access to all of our shows, invitations to exclusive events, and access to our premium content like live event footage and documentaries you won't see anywhere else. Only Rebel News Plus members can join the conversation by participating in the comments section of our new website. That way you can have your say too. More than anything, though, you'll be able to take pride in supporting real, honest journalism, and you'll help our talented team continue to do the work to push back on the establishment. We really can use your help. We need it, in fact. So thank you, and enjoy Rebel News Plus.